On the projector while on the screen. All right, hi everyone. Thanks for coming today. My name is Rich Pasquazi. I'm a parishioner here at Clement. Thanks for taking the time to come and learn a little bit about the Refugee Welcoming Committee. Can everyone hear me? You can? Okay. So I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the activities of the Refugee Welcoming Committee that we're about to start, as well as Catholic Charities, their work, and Patrick is here from Catholic Charities as well. Tell us a little bit about the work that they're already doing. Just start off with a quick verse here. It's from Deuteronomy. Talks about God, how He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow, loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners. I guess the whole spirit of this committee is the fact that all of us are descendants of immigrants. At one point or another, our family wasn't here, and they came here. And we'd like to be able to give a warm welcome to people that maybe had to go through a little more than your average immigrant did way back when. So this is the program today. I'm going to try to keep it to 20 minutes. It'll probably go a little longer. I apologize in advance for that. We'll start off with just an introduction to the Catholic Charities Refugee Resettlement Program, and Patrick will talk a bit about that. Then we'll talk a bit about the Refugee Welcoming Committee. Then I will give a quick talk about the work that I'm doing with Abdullah's family. This is Abdullah and Esat. I don't know if you guys want to wave. They got here to the United States back in February, right? February, they arrived. So, and then Abdullah is actually going to tell you the story of how his family came to be here. It's pretty intense. He's from Darfur. I don't know if any of you know about the conflict that happened there, but yeah. And then we'll go through a quick involvement survey. And I'll ask you guys to fill that out to see what your level of interest is, what you think you'll be able to offer to the committee, and then we'll wrap up with some questions. So Patrick, if you want to come up here and give a quick word.
How's everybody doing today? Good? Yeah. Good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming today. As Rich mentioned, my name is Patrick Costanzo, and I am the volunteer coordinator for the Catholic Charities Refugee Resettlement Program. So I'm going to just kind of give you guys a little bit of background about what our agency does. And so kind of the purpose of this program is to kind of provide a more holistic kind of view of what the resettlement process looks like, and then kind of what we are hoping to do in engaging with St. Clement's parishioners. So first of all, it's kind of important to kind of clarify what we mean by a refugee. A lot of time there's been a lot of misconceptions about what that means. I remember even in 2005, after Hurricane Katrina, we'd always be talking about refugees from Hurricane Katrina. But in fact, an official refugee, according to international law, has to meet many different requirements. But most importantly, it's kind of fear or persecution that has kind of driven them permanently from their homeland, so that they cannot return. So those are primarily the clients we work with. We work with Iraqi populations, Afghani populations, Bhutanese, Burmese, Sudanese, Somali, Congolese, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, but then also many other countries. So it's a very kind of broad patchwork of ethnicities, religions, languages, but it's definitely and as you'll hear even from Abdullah, the stories that a lot of these refugee families carry with them are pretty inspiring, and they come to this country with a lot of needs, but also a lot of determination and a lot of strength. Before we kind of launch into the meat of the program, I'd like to just kind of talk about kind of the services that we provide, and then also kind of to give you a little bit of a perspective of kind of the gaps that we are really kind of hoping to engage St. Clement's in. So as an agency, we provide for the first 3 months financial support as far as rental assistance, food, utilities, transportation costs. All those are covered by federal government grants through the State Department. That's how we get that funding. And then after that, most of our families are supposed to be quote unquote self-sufficient in 3 months' time, meaning they have a full-time job, are able to meet all of the average cost of living. But as you can imagine, that self-sufficiency does not take into account many of the longer-term issues of adjustment, kind of upward mobility, things like that. So what we're really trying to do, especially in terms of our work with volunteers, throughout the city, we work with universities, parishes, community organizations, is to really try to provide a little bit more extended services. And so we provide comprehensive case management for over 1 year, depending on circumstance. We offer job development and job support for 2 years, so that is helping our clients find and maintain permanent employment. And then we also offer K-12 services, which supports all the children in Chicago public schools and area Catholic schools for 3 years. So that includes parent-teacher conferences, registration, and things like that. But there are definitely gaps, and as we mentioned in the flyer, we've got some kind of ideas and ways we can potentially get you all involved. But that is kind of the bare bones of what our agency does. And now I will turn it back over to Rich.
Like these forms? There's 3. Okay. All right. Anyways, so I'm going to go about telling a bit about what our plans are for the committee. The fact is that we don't know exactly what we have to offer yet. So this is kind of an exploratory committee for the time being. Patrick, could you advance the slide for me? So again, our main goal in all of this is self-sufficiency. The St. Clement Refugee Welcoming Committee will work with Catholic Charities to help refugees from various regions of the world to adapt to their new home here in Chicago. Being descendants of immigrants ourselves, the committee will strive to help these refugee families achieve self-sufficiency through giving of our various talents and gifts. So, what do we need to do to help them achieve self-sufficiency? Got self-sufficiency up there. They have needs that need to be filled. We had a conversation last week with Sarah and Patrick, and if you advance to the next slide, it seems there's 4 main areas that they seem to be struggling with for the moment. Employment is one, housing is the other, financial responsibility, educational advancement, and then the last one is kind of a all-encompassing one. So we're going to start up several subcommittees. The first subcommittee is the employment one. In order to obtain self-sufficiency, get off of food stamps, get off of welfare, all of that, and advance in life, you need to have a job. The problem is that most of the people that come into this program, when they arrive here, don't speak very much English. And that makes it tough to get a job. They also may not have worked much at any point during their life. So they're very difficult in some cases to convince employers to bring them on. So we are going to start different teams within the employment subcommittee, the first being the job finder team. Someone that can go out to different institutions, different businesses, hopefully they know the owner, talk to them about offering this opportunity of giving unskilled labor to the refugees when they come in. The next would be the employment mentor team. So if you have any experience giving career advice, resume advice, interviewing advice, or even putting on different sorts of workshops, that's something that we hope you could help out with. And then finally, the employer team. If you're a business owner and you think that you could use unskilled labor in your home or in your workplace, obviously, that would absolutely be something that we'd be interested in working with you on. Next here, we've got the housing committee. The other big problem when they come in is that housing is very expensive in Chicago, especially for folks that don't have a job yet. Catholic Charities can cover the first 3 months, but past that, they're on their own, generally. So we need folks to be able to go out into the field, look for apartments for these families. I can tell you that Abdullah has a pretty nice place. He lives up at on Devon, about 6200 north on Devon. He's got a 2-bedroom apartment for his family. Really, it's nice. The last family I worked with had 5 people in a 1-bedroom apartment. The eldest son, who was 20, was sleeping in the closet because he just didn't have any space. And that's just the reality of life here. So the apartment finder team will go out to try to find affordable housing. Then there's the emergency housing team. Very soon we're going to be getting a big wave of Congolese refugees coming in. And honestly, we don't know where they're going to be put for the moment. We're trying to work with different institutions, maybe convents that would be able to take in the refugees temporarily. But there is this period of probably 2 weeks at the beginning that they're still trying to find a place to put them. So that would be the other one. Next is Minuteman Mover Team. We can change the name if you guys would like, but the idea is that occasionally Catholic Charities gets a call from someone that says, I have an apartment full of furniture, I need to get rid of it. And Catholic Charities will say, okay, but how are we going to get it? So it would basically be a team that within 2 days will be able to get a team together to go to the apartment, take all the furniture and bring it back to Catholic Charities. Next, we'd have a family move-in team that would help a family move in, obviously with a truck, if you have any furniture that you'd be able to help them out with, or just the physical labor part of it is very useful. And then once they're in, evaluate where they're at, because a lot of times they'll have the bare minimum. There's a lot of other things that they could use in their home. And just showing them how to use a stove a lot of times, or a microwave, or things like that. Many times they haven't seen that yet. And then finally, the carpentry team. If you have any carpentry skills, a loft can save a lot of space. If you can remember back to college, how much that opens up the room. So if you know how to build things like that, that would be useful. Next is the Financial Responsibility Subcommittee. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but when they come in, most times they haven't had a bank account before. I know that I was in Peace Corps in West Africa. 8% of the people in my country had a bank account. So teaching them how to manage their money, teaching them how to use an ATM, and saving for the future, even retirement advice, different sorts of banking advice, all of that would be very useful. Next, educational advancement. This is mostly based around kids in 2 ways. Obviously, first, tutoring kids. The Catholic Charities is going to have some opportunities in the fall on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays after school to tutor the children. But then there's also watching the kids so that their parents can get education. Good example, there's a woman coming in. She's a single mother. She has 5 children, and she's a refugee from the Congo. As you can imagine, it's going to be very hard for her to try to get higher education, even a GED. So being able to get groups together to watch her kids while she goes to school would be very useful. Finally, you've got a family liaison committee. So I'm a volunteer. I'm a volunteer with Abdullah's family, and basically my girlfriend and I, Courtney, we go there, basically take care of whatever they need. So I guess this ties into the next section, but we watch their kids from time to time. We'll take them shopping at Target or Goodwill to get new clothes. I know that with the last family I worked with, I took them to the bank, teach them how to ride the buses. Really any sort of need that they have that you think you could help address, you would be the connection between both Refugee Welcoming Committee and Catholic Charities. And normally I spend an hour to 2 hours a week up at their house. So, what are our future plans here? Well, as I said at the beginning, we really don't know what we've got yet. We know what the needs are, but we don't know how we'll be able to address them because we don't know what the interest is. I'm ecstatic to see this many people here this morning. And hopefully, once we evaluate what you're all able to offer, and once we've worked with a family for a few months even, we'll be able to either scale up or maintain the same level we have. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to take care of more than one family, I think, with a parish as large as ours. So, I told you a little bit about my work, and I know Abdullah's talk's going to go a little longer than 3 minutes. So I will ask Abdullah to come up now, and he will tell you his story about how his family came from Sudan, the region of Darfur, to be here in Chicago with all of us today. So, Abdullah, thanks for coming. Speak loud.
Good morning, Father.
Morning.
My name is Safrullah Ali. My family immigrated to Chicago in February 2014 from Darfur. I have 3 children. Esmat, 9 years old. Isaac, 7 years old. He's over there. And Tibias, 3 years old. My wife name is Khadija. My story began in Darfur, which is my homeland. As you may know, there was a war in Darfur which started in 2003. During this time, the government of Sudan destroyed everything in Darfur, even trees. There was mass genocide that time. The name of my city was Wada, which had 12,000 people. I was geography teacher at a high school. On Sunday, February 8, 2009, the government attacked my city at 5:30 p.m. As there was a battle raining until midnight, I waited until sunset, gathered my 2 years old and 4 years old son, and came with the city with my wife. We did not have enough time to gather any of my buildings. We just left. During this attack, 55 people were killed, including women, children, and old men. The army of the government stayed in the city for 3 days. During this time, they killed more people. It was unthinkable that our own government would kill their own people. After we left our city, I walked on foot for 2 days to nearby refugee camps in Zamzam. We lived in Zamzam for 3 months, eating what little was provided. In these camps, there were many sects of the government who would accuse us of being robbers. So I left Zamzam to go to Khartoum, where I found the same problem. It was not safe in the camp. I needed to leave the country. So I took my wife and children and went to Egypt, just like Yusuf. I lived with my family in Cairo for 3 years, where I continued to teach geography, but I know that I could not stay. The Sudanese government asked the Egyptian government to send
all refugees back to their home. To be punished. Upon hearing this, the Office of UN in Egypt forbade the government of Egypt from doing this. I wrote the UN Refugee Program in March of 2010 to officially become a refugee. After many years and live through the Arab Spring in Egypt, I finally received permission to come to America, and I arrived here in 2014. When we arrived, nobody in my family spoke much English. The UN gave our case to the Catholic Church Refugee Resettlement Program. They provided my family with a home, food, and advice at a learning English to start my new job and adapt it to your crazy weather. We also received 2 volunteers, Richard Basque and Courtney, who visit us regularly. They help to take care of our family, which is the children, take us shopping, and even help with Khadija needed to go to hospital. After Catholic Church, our life depends on Courtney and Richard. When I was asked to speak to you tonight, I was very happy because I know that there are many other families like mine who need your help. At some point in their life, everybody needs help. I thank Catholic Church for their help. I hope that you all decide to help a family the same way that they have helped mine. Thank you so much. I thank gentleman. I know him when I come to Chicago, Mr. Patrick. Thank you for everybody. Thank you, Catholic Church. Farewell, Catholic Church. Thank you. Goodbye.
All right, thanks so much, Abdullah, for that talk. I think that all gives us an idea of the work that we can do and what all their families have been through. Abdullah was lucky in that his family's here and safe, but it's not always the case. A lot of folks that come here from other countries suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Members of their family aren't with them anymore, and luckily Abdullah happened to have his beautiful family here, and their kids. Well, you can see us after. It's really cute. All right, so right now we're going to go through the involvement survey. I don't know if any of you have filled it out already. I know that this is going longer than we had hoped, but one more page there. I'll keep going. There we go. So again, this survey is just an evaluation of what your strengths are, what different teams that we talked about today you think you might be able to get involved in, and then finally, any other ideas you might have for us. I've only been doing this for a year, and there may be other needs that these families have that we haven't identified yet. So if you have any ideas, please feel free to share and write those down. So we'll take as long as you guys need to fill these out, and at the same time, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them, and we can do kind of a double task. But thank you so much for coming today, and I hope that we see you around more.
Hey, Rich, if we want to think about this, can we turn it to a finish afterwards?
Absolutely, yeah. All right. Any other questions for the time being? All right. Thanks so much for coming today, guys.